Hello, this is Winston Cunningham. It is December the 1st, 2025. And I'd like to clarify the word ego. What most people refer to as ego is actually, when you look into the structure of mind, it's actually the conscious ego. The ego itself is that purity that is I am, or the light within each one of us. That is the pure, true ego. And there's three divisions of mind that we constructed to learn from our experiences, which we're in the process of doing. The superconscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the conscious mind. And below the conscious mind is this conscious ego, which is the most beautiful angel that fell from heaven, which is the superconscious mind, to become the conscious ego, which is that part of the conscious mind that messes with you, that keeps putting these ideas in your mind that are unproductive. Now, when Jesus was in the desert and the devil tempted him, this was the conscious ego. And he had reached the point in his progression, and he always encourages us to follow along. He had reached the point in his progression to where he understood the real purpose of the conscious ego, which was not to be in front of you holding you back, but behind you pushing you forward. This is why he said, "Get behind me, Satan." Now there's four different developments related to the conscious ego. First is the serpent, then the devil, then Satan, and then finally the dragon in Revelation. And so Jesus was actually moving from adolescence to adulthood in spirituality, and demonstrating all of these stories are ways of demonstrating how we can do that. This is encouragement, because at the time these scriptures were written, in the time of Jesus, most people had no idea about discipline. That's what I learned at the School of Metaphysics, is that when you begin to do the concentration exercises, the meditation, visualization, listening, memory exercises, a lot of different exercises, your consciousness begins to expand, and this expansion is how you begin to understand things that you could not before. So it's very important to differentiate between what is conscious ego and what is ego. Ego is pure. Ego is the real self. It's the energy that is the real self. The conscious ego wants to diffuse that and confuse you. And of course, religion plays a big part in this confusion. It's not necessarily their intention, but their unconscious intention. That's where the devil really comes in. The conscious ego is that it stops you from looking deeper to find the truth. And of course, religion supports this. Don't look any farther. Just believe this, and and so that stunts the growth of most of humanity. But I just thought it would be helpful to at least plant the seed, and you can do further research on this. But looking, as I was taught in the School of Metaphysics, all of the scriptures are coded in language of mind. Now, light, which is what God created, let there be light, that is the I am in each one of us. And also, from the light, everything is created. So we were created from what is, the everything that is. So we've got everything built in. So our job needs to be looking within to begin to understand what it is that we have. We have it all. And sometimes, with some of my experiences, it don't feel that way. But I have to keep reminding myself, so wait a minute. I've got a way to deal with this, I just don't see it yet. But just by turning this around, by just saying, wait a minute, you begin to listen. And you begin to see a little bit more of what you have. But if you don't listen, if you don't say, wait a minute, if you just listen to the conscious ego, now you got this. Now, a person really knows when they got this, if they're honest. But if they're just listening to the conscious ego is not honest. It wants to keep you tripped up, so to speak. The ego is pure. Conscious ego is a diffused look at the real self, or ignoring the real self. All of those things come into play there. Ego is pure. Conscious ego is the infiltration of the erroneous thoughts that do not lend evidence of truth. Evidence of truth comes through the experience of each one of us. But if you make your decisions according to what you hear from someone else, or from what a group of people tell you, be careful. Spend time to yourself, look within here, and your own soul will guide you to the experience that will cause you to have a way to understand these things. And it's through understanding these things that we move beyond these things. Because until we understand these things, whatever they are, until we understand them, we still have that need to experience it. And we will experience what we need. At any given time, everybody has exactly what they need. And the wanting to push it away does not work. If you push against it, trying to get rid of it, it gets stronger and it's pushed back toward you. Another word for that is pain. Pain is designed to get our attention. This is all. If it don't get our attention, it needs to increase. If it don't get our attention, it needs to linger. But the conscious ego will help you ignore what is. Like religion. Ignore what is. Just believe this. Well, believing is necessary, but it is insufficient by itself. Let me repeat that. Belief is necessary, but by itself, it is insufficient. The only way a person can see truth is through their own experience. But if you listen to the experiences of others and forego your own, conscious ego lacks that. You're in bed with the devil when you do that. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. But I'm just differentiating a little bit further delineation of what the difference is between ego and the conscious ego. Because when a person refers to ego, mostly what they're referring to is, without knowing, is the conscious ego. Conscious ego is the false self. Remember what the devil was telling Jesus? You just follow me, and I'll put you on, put you where you need to be, or where you want to be. I'll make you feel good. And so the conscious ego does a lot of that. It said, rather than to be good, the thing is to feel good. So the conscious ego said, you don't need the pain. Just follow me, and we'll get on the other side of that. But that actually increases the pain. The structure of mind is like this. It starts with the light, which is the I am in each one of us. And the quality of light is love. So, in essence, each one of us is pure love. If we don't see that, then we're probably diverted by the conscious ego, which is the lowest part of us. Not the highest part, the lowest part. It is kind of confusing just hearing people talk about if everybody knew how to knew these differences, then they would use the word conscious ego rather than using ego. There are some well-known writers, sell lots of books, who do not know the difference here. And this is sad. They're still offering good things to a lot of people, but they're also offering some misguidance through their own ignorance. Ignorance is caused from ignoring, and ignoring who you really are, and supplant that with who you may want to be to look good. Looking good and being good may be two different things. And if you look at somebody, is this person trying to be good, or are they trying to look good? People look at me and say, "Oh, what's the matter with you?" That's okay. Because I like to make people say, "Huh." If they can just look at me and have a question, hey, my job is easy. Because the question is the most important thing. If they've got a question, they're going to have to find an answer, and their own soul is the way they'll find that answer, so they can only find that by looking within. So I try to give people questions, or make them, if I can do something to make the person say, "Huh?" then there's a question in there. So I don't need to say anything else. Because it's in answering the questions properly, allowing your own soul to guide you in answering these questions, that takes you farther along the road that Jesus was pointing to. It will behoove any person, if you haven't been exposed yet to the language of mind, go to the School of Metaphysics, som.org, look at the book list, and choose any book that deals with language of mind, that's interpreting any scriptures in language of mind. Many of them written by Dr. Daniel Condren. One that I use on a regular basis is The Universal Language of Mind, Matthew Interpreted. Then he breaks it down where it's understandable. Or at least for me, when I was exposed to this book, and in fact, I can remember the last time I actually saw Daniel Condren and Barbara Condren face to face in Nashville. Each one of them told me the next 4 or 5 books they were going to write, and of course this was one of the books, and that's exactly what they did. They do what they say they're going to do, and they've done some. You can look at the books they've written and tell a little bit about what good they're doing for the rest of us, and that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying I'm offering what I have come to understand in hopes that it may help someone else. This is all. There are 7 levels of mind. Since I mentioned the books, to finish the whole picture about what it is to progress into, as Jesus was describing, look at Dr. Daniel Condren's book, The Secret Code of Revelation. For instance, the 7 churches are the 7 levels of mind. And church actually describes the energy in each level that a person uses in order to propel themselves forward, upward. He unravels it in a way that it could begin to make sense for you, especially if you're doing some concentration and meditation exercises that is causing your consciousness to expand. As Einstein stated it, he's pretty neat. He come at these understandings from a different perspective. But he said that a problem cannot be solved by the same level of consciousness that created it. And I've experienced this over and over again. It's especially early at the School of Metaphysics, when my consciousness began to expand. Well, now I could begin to understand things that just made me wrinkle my eyebrows before. What? Didn't quite get the whole picture. But after a few months of doing these concentration exercises, meditation, I began to review these things maybe a half a dozen times a day. I said, oh, now I see what that means. But now I was using more of what I have to look at it. Using more of what I have. And that's what I'm always after. How can I use more of what I have. And at times I've thought, well, why don't I just get it all? Well, I don't think I can handle it all. I really don't. This whole system is designed to where we have experiences. We get access to these things in bits and pieces, a little at a time. And if we're paying attention to the learning, if we're actually learning from our experiences, then we're getting acquainted with ourselves. But it comes in bits and pieces. To do like the Buddha did, sit under a tree until it all comes to you, I don't know how to relate to that. Makes a good story. And I'm sure there's truth in it. But I don't know how to do that. And when people say they all of a sudden became enlightened, I don't relate to that. I do relate to getting it in bits and pieces. Like one good example is I've always heard the term Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. And it came to me clear the morning that I sat down and actually talked about the 3 pillars of purpose. If you want to go back and listen to my talk, the 3 pillars of purpose, I explained how I came to that. And I was coming to it as I was speaking, talking about what I'd just come to. Those are the things that are important to me. So, if I could say at this moment that I've got it all, I think I'd be ready to go. I don't think I'm ready to go. I'm Winston Cunningham. There's a difference between the ego and the conscious ego. So catch yourself when you say ego. Do you really mean conscious ego? And read some of Dan Condren's books or Barbara Condren's books. They're talking about language of mind so that you can begin to understand in a deeper way what you've always read. Thank you for listening. I'm Winston Cunningham.